listening to the Hometown Losers, the St. Louis Sports Podcast, with Josh, Adam, and OJ.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the Hometown Losers Podcast. This is session number 23, joined as always by my co-host here in OJ and Adam. Gentlemen, how are we doing? It's been 2 weeks since we took a week off. Yeah, how's everybody doing?
Doing good here. So glad to be back. Obviously, we were a little busy last week with some, some things going on, but
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, yes,
yeah, Guardian. I was gonna say, yeah, Guardians came out. It was worth taking a week. I didn't have to, be all crying over the Cardinals or the draft or anything else. So it's like, okay, so it gave me a week to like soak it all in, and at least go cry over Guardians 3 instead.
I say Guardians of the Galaxy, and I just hear OJ in the background. Jesus Christ,
nerds. Dude, it's a damn good movie, all right?
It's like, I figured it was worth taking a week for.
It was worth taking a week. Absolutely, it was.
Hey, I don't know any movie I would dedicate a week to.
Yeah, it was just one of those things that, unfortunately, for scheduling, my schedule really filled up pretty quickly. And so it's just like, well, shit, we'll just, move it to next week and go from there.
I had to take a whole week. I had to cry.
Yeah, I had to recover, man.
Hit me in the feels, man.
Don't spoil it for anybody. I might watch it.
No spoilers.
I will say that it was a phenomenal movie. James Gunn has done it again. That's all I'll say.
I was going to say DC is going to be like, oh my God, it's going to be insane over there.
I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, yeah, Mr. Marvel, I get it. But I'm telling you, James Gunn, dude, that guy is beyond talented.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Beyond talented. And a hometown.
And St. Louis's own.
I was going to say, and a hometown boy from Manchester. So there you go.
Yeah. He actually, believe it or not, OJ, he went to SLU and he graduated from SLU University as well.
Yep.
And actually, most people don't know this. He actually was married to Jenna Fisher for 5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Played him in The Office.
Yep, that's very true. In fact, not to get on a tangent, but I think his brother actually wasn't he like a writer for The Office too? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. I don't think so, but I could be wrong with that.
Anyway.
There's so many people that wrote The Office, but yeah. All right, let's get into some sports podcast here. Well, actually, hold on. First and foremost, we got to ask the most important question. OJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just because we didn't get your response because we got into this.
Yeah, I sort of butted in there with, my life because it's obviously,
Okay, yeah, no.
It's all about me all of a sudden, yeah.
Right. I thought we were well past that part. I thought it was weird you were asking me that.
I should have just let it go and move on. Yeah, my bad.
We're just making sure, OJ, you're good, so. What has been going on in OJ's life lately?
I'm gonna get a text from him in like 2 days to be like, I was so emotionally scarred that I didn't get to say how I was doing. I'm gonna need a week off.
That's funny as hell. Oh man. I was gonna say, speaking of emotionally scarred, we've got some not so great news that we have to continue to report on.
At least we're starting this on a fun note because we got some stuff to talk about that is not very fun. So let's go ahead and dive into it, guys. Let's talk about the Cardinals. So since our last podcast, the Cardinals continue to lose. There was a little bit of hope when they went on a 3-game winning streak. However, since our last podcast, they are 4-9, including an 8-loss winning streak. They were 1-3 in series, which included sweeps to not only the Dodgers but also to the LA Angels, which didn't look good. We also were 1-3 against the Giants and barely won that last game.
But we finally won a series over the Cubs, so there you go.
Yay!
I mean, you could also say we won 3 of our last 4, Josh.
Yeah. See, this is the thing about this podcast. OJ is so optimistic, right? And then here we are, pessimistic over here. So he's always looking at.
I said it on session 22, man. It's what I love about OJ. He is just like so down to earth and like grounded to this stuff where I'm so emotional about all this crap.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Oh my God. Like, yeah, it's
You see, we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
That is true. That is true. But anyways, currently the Cardinals sit at 13-25. They're last in the Central, last in the entire NL, by the way. We're 8 games behind Pittsburgh for the lead in Central. We're 6 behind for the last wild card spot in the NL. So let's just get into a conversation here. There's a lot to be kind of to decompress and to talk about. OJ, I'm going to start with you. Who do you think is the blame? Is it Mazalok? Is it Marmol? Is it our pitching? Because we've talked a lot about our pitching on this podcast. You know, who's really like at blame here in fault? Obviously, it's probably a mosh pass, but, you know, who do you have?
Well, honestly, it's definitely got to be a little bit of everybody, right? So let me just figure out how to phrase this. Like the hitters are doing okay, at least some of them, but the pitching is definitely letting us down. But what's strange is the staff is pretty much the same. Like, we have a lot of returning pitchers from last season, and they're getting much worse results, specifically giving up a lot of home runs with runners on and in 2 strike counts. And, you know, we've also lost like a surprising number of the games we've lost. We have led at least at some point. So, like, our pitchers are kind of fucking us a little bit. And I don't know. I think kind of some of it, I think a lot of it falls on Mozeliak. This is something I'm actually kind of getting a little more pessimistic about, is like before this season, I thought that the Cardinals were pretty savvy in their front office. Like, they used analytics, but they combined that with like traditional baseball knowledge and acumen, right? But what I just learned today listening to the Bernie Miklasz show on the radio, and he said that.
And OJ, I didn't mean to cut you off. Where is he at? Because he's not on 101 ESPN, right?
Right, he's on the Fan on I don't know what the station's called, on AM. It's like 590 the Fan, I think.
It is. Okay, I got you. Okay, go on. Sorry about
that. But anyway, I didn't know about this, but apparently the real reason that Mike Maddox left is because he felt like the analytics people were getting too pushy. Like, he was cool with the analytics, but like I think he felt like they were starting to try to like take decisions out of his hands and shit like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so if that's really what they're doing, then they're actually morons. And that makes me very pessimistic about the outlook for the team. Yeah, because
that makes sense. Yeah.
There has to be a change in the overall way the pitching staff is approaching their games, because like I said, they're giving up home runs at a rate much greater than ever before. And with a lot of the same guys. And so it makes me wonder, is the front office forcing a pitching philosophy that doesn't fit with these pitchers because they have these numbers that say this is the way to go? But they didn't draft people that fit that style. So you need to work with what you have. It just seems like they're taking important baseball decisions out of the hands of the people that actually know baseball the best.
Right.
So to me, it's a front office deal, and Mozeliak heads up the front office, and he needs to figure out that he doesn't know everything in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, OJ, that I think there's definitely something to be said about Mozeliak. And, coming into this, it's actually a very interesting point what you just brought up too, right? Because I did not know that about Maddox, excuse me. I did not know about that, and that's the reason why he wanted to leave. And it's interesting to see if that is one of the reasons why we're having such a difficulty pitching and stuff like that, because some of the offensive numbers have been there. Sometimes they're not, but that's just baseball. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you don't. But our pitching has always been somewhat consistent, especially in the past 15 years. It's been pretty damn consistent. Our offense has just been the thing that's kind of always fallen down. So that's a very interesting point, and it kind of sheds some light that I wasn't even thinking about as well. So that's an interesting point. Adam, do you agree with OJ here? Or?
I do agree with OJ, and I also want to make another point too. I think another point, another part that we're missing here is we've mentioned it before, is we're missing Yadi, and Yadi he played a huge pivotal part in not only with our pitchers but also with our team and our leadership. And the fact that we're missing both of those pieces with Yachty, I think we're feeling that effect this year. That's my personal opinion. Because he usually worked really well with all of our starting rotation and really commanded the ball, and we're able to calm those guys down and was able to really kind of be that mediator between our pitching coach and with them, and actually kind of work with those guys to and be able to call the really not necessarily based upon statistics, but on gut. You know what I mean? Like, he knew baseball, he knew these players, he knew whenever somebody was getting ready to steal a base, he would know it ahead of time. Like, he'd been playing for so long. So whenever you lose that behind so when you lose that baseball IQ and that sense of leadership within the clubhouse, I think that's one portion of it. Another part, of course, as well, is Mo. Dude, he's not making the right decisions at all. Like, I know that they're trying to shake things up, and I know that with the Contreras deal, they're trying to shake things up, but like, none of what they're doing, in my opinion, is really where they need to put their focus on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like these guys just. I don't know. It's super frustrating because, like to OJ's point, we have a good roster overall, especially offensively. It's just that we lack the discipline sometimes, and then we've had good, potential. We've had good, starts for a lot of our starting pitching before, especially last year, and even some of our our relievers, Housley and all those other guys have had a phenomenal closures as well. It's just that pulling those all together, that's where we're lacking. So we have the pieces, it's just not pulling it together. So that's the problem.
Sure.
And it's the same with how the Blues were. You know what I mean? It's like we're lacking that leadership.
OJ, you're gonna say something?
Well, I was gonna point out also that if you go back and look at our staff ERA over the last, like, for the season over the last little while, it's actually pretty good, even though no one would say we have a good pitching staff. Like, no one's scared of our pitchers, but if you look at their ERA, they actually don't give up that many runs. Like, they actually do a pretty good job, certainly good enough to win. And all of a sudden now, they all just suck. Like,
well, and the other part too is we're giving up. We'll take the lead and then we give up. We end up losing it. We give it up.
Yeah,
and we just don't. We don't play. The full 9 innings sometimes. Like, I feel like we kind of give up too early. We take the gas. The foot off the gas. That's my.
Yeah. Well, it's always. It kind of seems like it's always a different reliever that gives up the lead. Like,
yeah.
That's otherwise been pitching. Well, tonight,
it's like, what the hell?
It's just okay. But that's why I'm more worried about it, because it seems to me it's not like, Mozeliak didn't go get a pitcher in the off season. Like, that's small potatoes compared to what is actually.
For sure. I mean, while I would have loved to have them actually, kind of stick by their commitment and actually, making some real moves and spending a little bit of money, but clearly that didn't happen. But at the same time, we didn't completely lose our core, Yeah,
exactly. No, I mean, we still got a lot of good position players. There's still time this season to turn things around and make the playoffs if things go well and they get their heads out of their ass,
Yeah. I mean, I was hopeful there for those 3 games, but we'll see.
The rest of the Central and also the National League in general has just all been pretty bad.
Yeah,
so, like,
it really has.
Not out of it, which is crazy. Like, they could definitely. They're like, I think they're like 8.5 games out.
They're 8 behind. They're 8 behind the Pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 behind the Pirates and 6 behind the last wild card spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if they start playing like last season, then there's a decent chance they still win the division.
Okay, so to be said on that, right? So that 87 number that we talked about on session 22, so our last session, that was has been a consistent number to get since they've expanded the playoffs, right? for either winning division, because that's what it took to win the Central Division for the past 2 years, ironically, but also to get the last wild card spot. So you got to get to like 87 wins. Obviously, that can totally change or whatever, but 87 wins is going to be that target to get compared to what we've seen. We will need to go 74-50. That's winning 60% of our games. Again, possible, but 60% of winning in baseball is pretty hard to do. You know what I mean? Especially when
especially the way we've
gotten
been
off to the start.
Yeah.
It's also pretty hard to lose 8 in a row. You know, like
Yeah,
the thing
that's a good
is,
point.
you know, the thing is that throughout a season, teams go on hot and cold runs. They never play at like an even pace clip, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've had a really terrible stretch, but that doesn't mean they don't have a really good stretch in them that could put them right back into the thick of things out of nowhere, you know? Like, so it's at least they're still in it, but yeah, like I'm obviously very worried.
Well, when you're in last place in the National League, it is concerning. Yeah, it is concerning.
Because I mean, there's still 12 games, I think, under 500. Like,
but to your point, the fact that we are, you know, we are in the Central. Hell, the Central and American League or the National League, they're both honestly they're both abysmal this year. Because I'm looking at the Twins; they have the exact same record that the Pirates do. So there you go. Yeah, and everybody else is far behind that. So anyway.
Well, it's actually really interesting too. I mean, when you look at that, right? You know, OJ, you just pointed up that we were 12 games behind 500, right? Here's the interesting stat. So in the 19 years that Molina taught for the Cardinals, we were never 11 games under 500 ever in those 19 years.
I'm not surprised. I think I saw someone say this is the worst start they've had since like 1907. Like, holy crap. Hey, but that's what happens when you turn off your brain and pull out the spreadsheets and numbers said do this. Like, come on, man. They pay you.
That's when you right when you take Moneyball and actually apply it to like a religion rather than just a way to look at the offense. That's when you have some issues here. When you look at
that's inexperienced leader, and that's inexperienced management that will do those sort of things because they don't have the baseball IQ to be able to make those to make those and kind of rely on their gut. You know what I mean? Whereas they're like, okay, I'm just going to do what the statistics tell me to do because this is what because I'm new to this, so to speak. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas
and that's Go ahead. Sorry.
Since they've lost that, like I said with Yachty, they really have lost a lot of that Cardinal baseball IQ,
Oh, I don't think that was Yachty. I mean, I honestly think Schilt was a really good custodian.
He was for sure.
But
I'm saying last year though was Marmol. He was still around, and I think that Yachty stepped in and kind of led that that charge. My opinion.
It is hard to tell if their lack of fundamentals early in the season are because of change in the way they're running spring training, or if it's just because the World Baseball Classic, and so they didn't have time to work on a lot of things they normally would. You know what I mean?
That's also a very good point too. Yeah. Did the WBC actually delay and hurt the MLB's production? Because it's not just us. San Diego isn't performing to what we thought San Diego would be. The Mets aren't performing to what we thought they would be either.
Same with the Dodgers. Well, I mean, they're getting better now, but they had a rough start at least.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it, there's a lot of just simple mistakes. These, now that they've gone on this little run, they've kind of cleaned it up a bit, but they were booting balls all over the place. Like, they looked like not professional baseball players. Yeah. And it's like, did they not? Well, guess what? They had a short spring training. Maybe they prioritized hitting in the cage over taking fielding practice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So if it was a normal season, I would be all over like Marmol has to go because like I can't.
I'm not to that point yet. Yeah, I'm not to that point yet. But
I will say, that to me, I believe that there's definitely some blame on Marmol. Right. The reason why I'll say that is the fact what he reminds me of, and it's kind of to your point what you brought up, Adam, of when it comes to experience and stuff like that. And to your point, OJ, too, that, Schilling was pretty good with being able to be a custodian to the Cardinals when it comes to understanding expectations for players, playing time and stuff like that, but also, right in the hot hand and using some sort of analytics. Marmol, to me, reminds me of this little league coach that I had. If my dad is, or if my dad's listening, you know who I'm talking about. He would always put in like certain people into certain spots, even though they were terrible at that spot. Prime example of that, and this is not just me beating my own horn, right? Or beating my own horn. That sounded very odd. Anyway,
Don't beat your horn.
tooting my own horn. Yeah, I was a very good outfielder, very good fielder, and I had a very strong arm. And he always put me in right field, which is not where the ball's going to be hit to a lot in Little League. He did under the disguise of protecting my arm since I was a pitcher as well. But there's no reason to protect my arm if I'm going to be playing in the outfield, right? I was also a decent infielder. However, I was always good at third base. He always put a specific person on third base because they couldn't field, but they could hit. And by hit, I mean this dude could stretch a triple into a single, let me tell you, because he just couldn't run. And he would put certain pitchers in to start and stuff like that, even though they sucked. And it became a problem because he got stuck into this. I know these guys can do this stuff, or like it's favoritism, whatever you want to have it. That was more towards favoritism. But I think Marmol is to the point of like, okay, this is what I got. He's projecting it from last year. Hicks was very good. Palante was very good. So he's putting these guys in these situations. They're just not performing to it. So what does he do? Okay, well, I don't know what else to do, so I'll just stick with them. Eventually they'll get out. But that's kind of what it feels like to me. You know what I mean? So I just don't.
A lot of times he doesn't have people ready to go in time to where he's kind of stuck there. Well, you got to wait for this guy to go because he didn't start getting anybody warmed up till like 2 seconds ago. And it makes you think that like some of these pitchers are more or less like it's almost like the front office is trying to script it. Like, okay, you're going to have this guy for an inning, this guy for an inning, this guy for an inning, you know? So it's like only in the most dire of circumstances do you get anybody up in the bullpen, you know? I mean, you can't just have them warming up willy-nilly because, like, you wear dudes' arms down just by getting them up constantly, too, if they're not going to pitch. So there is a line you got to walk. But, yeah, I mean, the pitching management, to me, you could, especially in the hole you're in, you got to win every game you can. So, like, you should be managing every game like it's your season's on the line because it is. So you need to, like, be a little more urgent with some of these, like maybe get 2 guys up. If you're going to send Palante out to try and hold a lead, maybe get somebody else up just in case he starts to falter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that comes from that inexperienced side of things, right? But also too, he needs to have a pitching coach in his ear that's going to be able to help facilitate some of that stuff. And again, I don't think that's happening anymore. I mean, Greg Maddux was amazing, or not Greg Maddux, Mike Maddux, right? Wait, am I getting mixed up? Which one was the awesome pitcher? Was Greg?
Mike Maddux.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Greg Maddux was the stud pitcher.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame pitcher, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought I got it. Yeah, okay.
I was going to say Mike Maddux is the coach. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I think that we're really missing with Mike Maddux is because, like, I go to Mike Maddux, and what really impressed me about Mike Maddux was actually 2011 World Series. If you remember, I can't remember the dude's last name, but remember his first name was Colby. He was that left-handed pitcher with that like dirty mustache that he had, like a young pitcher.
Oh God, I think I know who you're talking about.
But yeah. But anyways, he was in a big situation. Like, here comes the Cardinals. We have a chance to potentially, win the game or whatever. And here comes Mike Maddux that comes out and says a joke to the guy. He literally said a knock joke to him on the mound, and it just made the dude like laugh. Colby Lewis, that's right, yeah.
Yep.
And it made him laugh, and then all of a sudden, like you could see, like, just in that instant, all the stress just released. So he knew how to talk to his team, and he just had that veteran suave, so to speak, where he knew how to approach pitchers. He knew like his timing and stuff like that. And I feel like we're really missing that right now for sure, at least on the pitching side. And I think that, again, Marmol kind of being stuck in his ways. Although, let's be honest here, there's certain players that are not performing that are really putting him in a very difficult spot. So it is like, again, as we said before, or we said earlier, that it is kind of a mix of all 3 of these things that we've talked about at the front office, Mizalok specifically, Marmol and pitching. But it's someone's going to have to give here, right? And I think that is really the next question for us here is, where do we go from here? Because as I said before, we got to win 60% of our games. We did show some life against Chicago, which was really good. If we can start turning it around now, where we can start winning games and getting to like 500 baseball, I will start feeling better about it because I feel that, okay, cool, we get to 500. Well, 50% is 10% away from 60. All we have to do is go on a run here or there.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're up to that win percentage that we need to get to. Go on, Adam.
Well, the problem that I see, at least for the foreseeable future, for us, and it's going to be tough, is our schedule for the most part. You know what I mean?
That's it, yeah.
Our schedule for the next few series is going to be really rough. You know, we got Boston, we've got the Brewers, we've got LA, we've got to face again. It's going to be tough. You know, I'm not saying it's impossible, but we don't have that.
If this was the old school way of how it was, where not every team was doing
where we face more of
series,
but we have to face more equal. That is a good point. I never thought about that, but we're facing all teams equally, so to speak. You know, like we're facing the American League, and we're going to take a bruising from that American League more so than we did before because of the interleague. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
because if we had more series against the Central Division,
sure,
not only
we would make more progress
because the Central sucks. Yeah, so we would have a better chance to it. But as you said right there, we would be able to have more progress that's being made comparatively.
Half games, we could actually have full games as far as gains on them for losses, you know, for them and wins for us. That's absolutely true. So that's unfortunately I think is going to impact us for sure. Yes, I haven't really thought about that, but that would have an impact on us because we're not going to fare well against American League overall. We won't, you know, just how they're playing overall.
That said, we do have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. I mean, you're right. There are some tough series coming up, but we actually have a lot of games left against our Central too, and the AL Central yet, I believe.
Definitely the AL Central for sure. And so again,
but I'm just saying about if we're going to turn it around, it's going to be tough, at least for the next, few weeks, I'd say.
This is a very important time in the Cardinals season this year for sure.
Yeah.
They need to at least tread water as best they can,
Which is obviously a lot easier said than done. But at some point, you have to start playing to the potential that you see on paper. You know what I mean? There's no way this Cardinals team can continue to perform like this, although we said the same thing about the Blues. So, we just got to believe. We got to believe in the process here at this point in time that, they're going to be able to turn it around, stuff like that. Again, we started to see some life from them, but I don't know. Like,
I need to see more.
Point, OJ, exactly. Like, we do have a lot more to play against the Central on both sides, right? The AL, because we haven't played an AL. We did because we played Detroit, and we lost that series, which wasn't great. But that being said, we will face them again. We'll face the Royals, which suck, so we'll have an opportunity.
Well, I mean, I guess if I want to take any glimmer of hope from this is that we finally broke the the streak where every home or every series opener, so to speak, like the first game in each new series, we've been losing since the beginning of the year. We finally broke that curse. So there you go.
Yeah.
So
chipping
away at it a little bit. So you know what I mean? Little by little.
Kind of did feel like, they finally win one. Now all of a sudden, they're playing.
Floodgates are going to open.
Yeah. I mean, they got lit up this last game against the Cubs.
Oh, sure, 10-4.
I mean, that's because Montgomery blew up. Excuse me, which is kind of weird. He started off strong and then he kind of just lost it. And I mean, there was a play where Bellinger beat out Chopper back to the first baseman. Montgomery couldn't beat him to the bag, and after that, like, he kind of fell to shit. So he blew up, and then I'm sure we threw out our mop-up guys, and then so the Cubs scored 10. But other than that, I mean, we had won 3 in a row and got solid pitching performances each time. Like offense did well. So hopefully they keep it up.
We'll see.
Speaking of specifically Jim Montgomery, he's 2-5. Like, something's got to change there. I mean, good Lord. Like, he was a fantastic pitcher for us last year.
He's been a great pitcher for us so far. He's been our best pitcher so far this year, too. He had a bad game last time, though. That's what kind of sucked. But just you won the other 2, and then you're like, all right, we got our best pitcher going. We maybe get a sweep here, and he blows up.
Yeah. Hard to say your best pitcher is, with a 2-5 record, but it is what it is. That's just kind of how it is right now.
Yeah, you can't be mad about a series win this time of year. Or when it's going this way.
Yeah, I was going to say, thankfully we got one, and against the Cubs. So, I mean, at least that felt good. So,
For sure.
but
And
yeah, I was going to say,
He's still-
Waino is supposed to be making his start tomorrow, so that'll be interesting.
Yep.
Whenever they start the series in Boston, so we'll be seeing him versus James Paxton. So,
And I
we'll
think
see
that
how
the
that
Cardinals,
goes.
what they need to do is just take it series by series. Because if you win all your series going forward, obviously that's over that 60% you're in the playoffs most likely. Because I put you at like 95, 98 wins, somewhere around there. Just off like ballparking it, right? That's actually probably higher. I think that might be over 100 wins. Regardless, like that's what you need right now. So just focus on one series at a time. And the series that you should win, you have to win. And that's when you go, okay, cool, let's try to go for a sweep. But again, you got to get the win. And, you got to at least start taking – you can't get swept anymore. It's like flat out, you just can't, because it's just going to put you so far behind the hole. Like, you just got to continue to just get wins, scrape by and stuff like that against good teams. It's as simple as that.
For sure.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying. So think about it. Like, at this point, they've lost any kind of fucking hubris they may have had, any of the players, I mean.
Yeah.
So you're kind of sitting there like, if you have a halfway decent manager, he does the Berube thing, throw the standings in the trash, and fucking we're just gonna go play some baseball. Like, just be in the moment, play your game, and don't worry about anything else. They have literally nothing to lose. They're you know what I mean? Like, they're kind of at the point where they're already a bit of a laughing stock. You know what I mean? So,
well, I mean, the fact whenever our own fans were starting to boo them and they started feeling that, they're like, yeah, there finally comes a time whenever St. Louis is like, okay, we've had enough,
Well,
So
Yeah, and that's
like
the first time
I've never encountered that. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in St. Louis, usually.
Almost never.
Yeah.
Almost never. But I do think it's because it isn't even just losing. Like I said, the way they were losing was so frustrating.
Yeah.
Because they're shooting themselves in the foot so much, getting themselves thrown out on the bases for no reason, bobbling balls and throwing them away and all that stuff.
It's like watching Little League, so it's like, come on now.
Exactly.
Like,
we don't have to pay a bunch of money to watch this quality of baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't good baseball at all. It was deserved, frankly.
No. So let's transition here to another topic, because this is definitely one we definitely need to address and talk about. But what the hell is with this Contreras stuff? So if for anybody that's been living under a rock, obviously we signed Wilson Contreras, to be our catcher, our everyday catcher. He is now no longer our everyday catcher because they're moving him to be DH and outfield specifically while he gets to be more familiar with the staff. Adam, I'm going to start with you. What's your take on this? I mean, like, is this all of a sudden now this deal, this offseason deal, which was, again, the premier offseason deal, the only one we made, that was supposed to transform our roster offensively to be able to help out, has it just backfired completely on us?
Well,
what's your thoughts on it?
Obviously, he has some huge shoes to fill. He's not going to be the Yachty, obviously. That's just not going to happen. But at the same time, I feel that they're starting to kind of scapegoat some of these guys, a little bit. And we've seen that a little bit. I mean, with Walker, he's been obviously a little wishy-washy with, especially playing in the outfield. But now we're seeing this with him. It's like, are they making these changes from a management perspective because they don't know what else to do? I was a little perplexed by the decision to, basically pluck him out of being our catcher and, basically moving him to be a DH and whatnot. How are we going to get our starter up to where he needs to be by not having behind the plate? I mean, at this point, we need to either we believe in it or we don't. You know what I mean? It's like, if we've lost the confidence, then what are we going to do? I mean, that's do we say this was a complete bust? I don't think that it's to that point, but it's still very early into the season, and I don't think he was as terrible as they looking at the situation. I don't think he was that terrible, but I do know at the same point, you can't compare him to what we had,
For sure.
And the other thing is that I also feel that Ali and Mo they're taking it out, it seems like, on everybody else, but they're not really taking it out on our pitchers. Like they're not really giving them much blame from what I'm sitting here as. They're always pointing the fingers at everybody else. And I think that our pitching staff definitely deserves some blame here.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely
very interesting.
Go on, OJ.
You pointed that out because I didn't even realize that. It is funny. Honestly, I think that indicates what they think the real problem is.
Yeah.
They don't want to make the pitchers feel bad because they're all
pretty much
so shitty.
I mean, it's a bad pitching staff overall, and it's like I don't know. They just don't really want to say anything to him, and it's like, are they going to hurt? They're going to get hurt over. I don't know, but it's just like they're making all these other moves, and I think that they're getting. I think it's a bit of a scapegoat, in my personal opinion. I would love to hear their opinion on it. To see what was their thinking on it. I haven't really heard much, unless you guys have.
Yeah.
What their thinking behind it was, because I don't know. They haven't came out and said why.
Yeah, the only thing that I've heard, and it's not even around Contreras specifically, like on why they pulled him, but the only thing I heard specifically with Wainwright saying that he'd much rather have Kisner catch him, and again, this was not like he didn't say this publicly or anything, but apparently like it was overheard that he'd much rather have Kisner catch him than Contreras. And if that's true, I look at it and go, Waino, I love you, bro, but grow the fuck up. You're a professional baseball player. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to have the same catcher for your entire career.
And we stuck $87.5 million in this guy for a contract. Okay? This is our future. So, I'm sorry, but get over it. You know what I mean? It's a 5-year deal. Get over it. So, we can't just give up on him after a month. Especially whenever I think there's a lot more blame to go around everywhere else. But, whatever.
I don't know whether Wainwright said that or not, but I know that publicly he said he's excited to pitch to Wilson Contreras.
Right. So, yeah.
It sounds like
again,
I think at the very least being professional. I mean, but.
And again, that's what I'm saying. It hasn't, like, he hasn't said this publicly. He hasn't said it anywhere. You know what I mean? This was just like what people said that they overheard, down the grapevine. If it's true, then obviously you got a real big problem there. But to your point, OJ, you know what I mean? Like, he did say that he wants to pitch to Contreras because he knows that Contreras is big friends with Molina and stuff like that as well, right? Mm-hmm. So
I guess the question I would have then for Ali is, why move Contreras? Like, is Contreras behind the plate why we're losing games right now?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, is that really what's causing us to lose games? I don't think so. So what's that all about,
I mean, so definitely, first of all, I do want to point out, I haven't seen that many balls get by catchers in like a really long time. So
yeah,
you think there's something to be said for his defense being a very, very negative. Like, at some point, pitchers are going to get scared to bounce a breaking ball, you know what I mean? And that's when you start leaving them up over the heart of the plate and getting them crushed.
Too, yeah.
So there, you need to have that confidence there, and he hasn't given them a reason to be confident that he can handle that.
I get it.
Then, but as far as pitch calling goes, that's very much not on his shoulders. Like, that's
especially if they're going to go on paper at this point in time. You know what I mean? If they're going to go off the stats, then apparently they're going to be completely taking that off of him completely. He's just a middleman at that point. He's just pitch competent.
It depends. Well, yeah, I don't know if they're not sending pitches in from the bench, I assume. I mean, obviously you could do that. I think Tampa Bay does already, maybe. So, I mean, that's certainly something you could do, and still let him catch. Like,
I don't know what they think.
There is somebody said it. God, who was it? I think it was Matt Holliday said it, that basically the only reason this is happening is because probably all of the starters went and said, we don't trust this guy. Like, we don't like throwing to this guy. Probably. Yeah. They probably all went to, management and said that, they thought something needed to change. And I don't know that they ever intended for it to be public. You know what I mean? Like, they probably were trying to handle it respectfully in the right way, but also the team is losing constantly, and they feel like they can't pitch their best with Contreras behind the plate. So they say something to the manager. Next thing you know, it's on the fucking papers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cardinals are moving Contreras off because, the pitchers don't want to throw to him. They probably like, what the fuck? Because you could make anything up. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. I mean, and obviously if they're not going to hold their pitchers accountable, so they're just going to allow them to make that decision, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is, but look, pitch calling it can't be over pitch calling is what I'm saying, because that's been a collaborative effort like forever. Like, pitchers always have a say in what pitch they're throwing. It's not like
they can shake it off 100 times over. Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Now that was I saw a quote from Mozeliak where he was saying, "Oh, well, it's hard for us to get the pitch we want because of the time, they put because of the pitch clock. Now you can't shake off a guy in the times. You have to." But it's like, how did you not figure out a system before the season began? How was this an unforeseen thing? Like, I thought about this. I'm like, I had a system. Tell the catcher, he sends the pitch to the pitcher. The pitcher sends the pitch he's actually going to throw back to the catcher, whether it's what the catcher called or not. Boom.
Yep, because he's going to catch it anyway, so what's the matter?
Exactly.
Because that's the thing. The catcher could absolutely call for whatever he wants, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get that pitch. So
yeah,
you're 100% right.
From there, if they can do what they want with it, but it's not hard. So that just seems like a dumb excuse also.
Yeah.
Trevor one.
Yeah, I mean, if our pitchers have to be told what to pitch every single time, then that's ridiculous,
Yeah,
like they're major league pitchers.
Because it comes down to that professionalism.
Yeah. So that's an excuse. I mean, in my opinion,
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous to try and say, oh, we can't win because Contreras is calling pitches. That's just insane excuse.
I think it's a cop out. Yeah, to me it's a cop out, and I think that you deciding to put Contreras in the outfield first and foremost takes away from an already crowded outfield. It also, because now that blocks definitely Jordan Walker from coming back. Yep. It blocks a lot of other things, and also too. Okay, cool. We won't play him in the outfield. We'll put him in the DH. Now you're blocking Nolan Gorman. You're blocking everybody else that has the opportunities to get at bats.
And we're going to pay this dude like $87 million for 5 years to just be our DH. Yeah, right. Okay.
Honestly, he is raking right now. So, I mean, he's a pretty damn good DH at least. So
I know, but that's
still,
not what we bought him for.
He could be in the catching spot. Exactly.
We didn't buy him to be a freaking DH.
I don't think this is the last time we'll see Wilson Contreras behind the plate. I do think that there's probably some truth into that. Maybe they felt like Contreras wasn't prepared enough on how to call the games for different pitchers and stuff if he didn't know their strengths and weaknesses that well. You know what I mean? Like, there may have been a legitimate reason where they didn't feel comfortable with him behind the plate, but I do think they're going to try their damnedest to get him back there. Now,
I would hope so, because I mean, that would be a huge stain on Mo, if not, to make that kind of deal, to make and spend that kind of money, and then literally just be all for nothing,
Absolutely. And honestly, I think that
because that was their only move, really. Realistically, that was their only move in the offseason. So it's like, that looks really shitty if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think that they kind of thought that going into the season, they probably kind of thought he wasn't quite there, but they're like, well, he'll get more experience out there with them and everything, and he'll get better as they go. And then they started losing like crazy, and they're like, well, we don't have time to play around. Like, we need who we think is going to be the most effective person out there, which unfortunately right now is just Andrew Kisner. But it doesn't mean he's also been raking recently. So, I mean, over the last 4 games, or basically since he took over the starting catcher job, he's been doing very well. So that's good. But
anyway,
yeah, I don't know.
So, excuse me, guys. So let's just talk about this. Let's round it out here, because obviously we got a bunch of other stuff that we need to get to here. But the question that I'm going to ask, and it's just more of a general question: are we going to start trading players like we did with the Blues? Right? Are we going to start trading away Nolan Arenado? Are we going to trade away Paul Goldschmidt and stuff like that? I mean, I personally don't really think so because I don't think that the MLB draft is as big as like obviously NHL draft, stuff like that. OJ, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think that we're going to end up doing what the Blues did and just start selling away players because we have the bankruptcy from Valley coming and all that stuff? What's your thoughts on that?
So it depends on the player. First of all, I don't think Arenado will get traded because he opted in.
Don't think so.
I also don't know. I'm not sure who's got no trade clauses and stuff, but like you can't do that to somebody that just opted in to stay on your team. You can't just go trade them somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah,
a lot harder to sign people in the future. That would be a dick move. So I hope they don't do that. I mean, the main guy I could see him trading would be like Tyler O'Neill because he has value still. But I mean, everyone knows now that he's got a problem with the manager. I shouldn't say that. I mean, him and Ollie had that tiff, and now he doesn't hardly play anymore. So it kind of does read that way a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, they could trade him. I don't see him trading Arenado because of the reasons I said. I don't know Goldschmidt maybe, but he probably has a no trade clause too. I don't know. The thing is, I
don't know.
Like they've got enough good young players coming up that they can expect to be good soon. Like you could literally, even if this winds up just going this way the entire season, and they have like the worst season in Cardinals memory, essentially, they should be able to turn this around pretty quickly because they do have like a lot of decent pitching prospects in the minors as well that are starting to work their way closer to the majors. I mean, for instance, Liberator's a guy you could see coming up this year even, but he's been killing it in AAA. So, and he's added a couple miles per hour to his fastball. So all of a sudden you get yourself a solid lefty added to the rotation. Like, okay, so that would be the biggest difficulty for them is their pitching. But they do have like a nice nucleus of young players that they should be able to be good soon.
Yeah. Speaking of lefties, there was some recent, news being teased around about Eduardo Rodriguez with the Tigers, that he may opt out, and then he's looking apparently at certain teams like the Padres or the Cardinals as well. Because
we don't scare him off.
What's that?
Right.
I hope we don't scare him off.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, apparently there's some talks, or at least some rumors that I've been reading about. So anyway,
they have way too much. They do have a logjam of guys they got to get rid of. They do have a bevy of players that can't do any more in the minors, but we don't have room for them on the roster. So hopefully they can convert that into more pitching.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening, right? And what's going to end up actually transpiring for the Cardinals for the rest of the season is going to be one of those things that I really think we're going to look back on, whether it's successful or not successful. You know what I mean? And we'll be able to know like this. We're really approaching the linchpin. You know what I mean? Is it going to be successful? Is the glue going to hold, or is it going to fall apart again? You know what I mean? And that's going to be kind of it, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Well, guys, let's transition here and let's talk about the NHL draft and get to some NHL news. So let's talk about real quick before we get into our main topic about the NHL draft. The Blues, we do have the pick order. The Blues are picking 10th, which is what we were predicted to be able to pick. And right now it looks like our other two predicted, which haven't been decided yet, are being projected for 29th and 30th, so not great. Unfortunately, because Toronto continues to fucking win, although they look like they're going to lose this series, and Dallas continues to win, and they're tied up right now with Seattle. So that's that news for the Blues. So let's talk about who won the damn draft, which was the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, I'm going to try to keep it civil here, at least for me. You guys can do whatever you want. The question that is going around social media, it's not just social media. I mean, it's all over the internet right now. A lot of people believe that the NHL draft was rigged. And I'm telling you, there is a lot of evidence that proves, or not proves, but shows that it could potentially be rigged. There's a lot that goes into this. Adam, I'm going to just ask you straight up. You believe that this was rigged?
the more that I see and the more that I'm reading, I think there definitely are signs that there were. The fact that now there are NHL executives that are coming out, or at least that have, spoken to some of the media per se, a little privately. Elliot Friedman actually spoke on the issue on his recent podcast, where he shared some of the inside sources are very suspicious of the results. I think it's very strange the way that they played it out, because obviously there was a lot of some strangeness on ESPN. Obviously, whenever ESPN was knowing the picks before the pick was actually officially announced by the NHL, specifically whenever the Ducks get pick number, they were the third pick. They announced it and then went to a commercial, and then they came back and then they actually officially announced it, where they turned the card. So I was wondering, like, why didn't they show any of this? I finally found that on YouTube, they actually did show the quote unquote lottery, right? So basically the lottery where they have to draw the balls, and that combination of like 4 or 5 balls has to, I think it was 4 balls, has to match then your team's, combination per se. The thing is that wasn't live. That was a recorded video, and it was uploaded on YouTube. While while Bettman tried to sit there and act like this is legit, here's today's newspaper, blah blah blah, and like proving that it was today. The fact is, it's like, why is that not live? You know what I mean? Like, that seems awfully suspicious to me, because how hard would it be for them to just tape it as many times as they need to get that combination? You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I said, there could be complete coincidence, but the fact is, of course, it's Chicago. Of course, it's the team that, needs the help more than anybody. And of course, that's what Bettman would have wanted more than anything. So it just seems awfully suspicious. You know what I mean?
Actually, and so here's the thing is, Adam, I disagree with you that the Chicago Blackhawks are actually a franchise that needs this more than any other team. For me, I'm just going to go into the reasons for me.
I guess, really, the Coyotes really need, I guess, a name like that to save them, because their franchise is ready to fall off the face of the planet. But the fact is, I guess my point is, they've lost some big talent. They've lost some. And so for them having this, did you not see what happened after because obviously their attendance is going to start dropping off immediately after they get the number one pick. It surges. They start selling crazy amounts of tickets to season ticket holders, to season ticket holders. So for them, it's going to pump a shitload of money into Chicago. So for them, they're loving it. So anyway,
and that's the reason why I believe that this is rigged, OJ. So I'll ask you right after I kind of get to my points. So I take a look at it, right, in the draft order. What was supposed to be, it was supposed to be Anaheim, Columbus, and then obviously Chicago. That's what the 3 best odds, right? Now, what ends up happening in this situation for me is the NHL looks at this and goes, okay, we're not going to give Anaheim the number 1 overall pick. Reason for it has nothing to do with market or anything like that, is the fact that they already have a bunch of young, talented studs that they just need to be able to put together, and they're going to all of a sudden be a very good team. I mean, Zargas is coming, man. That guy's already here, as I should say. The dude is phenomenally talented, but if you paired him with like Connor Bedard, it's going to be lights out. It's going to be the same thing we see with Edmonton with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It's going to be like that. So they decided to not do that, because Edmonton, when they got Leon Draisaitl, when they got Connor McDavid, they had a few other pieces, but they were not like what Anaheim has. Anaheim, as I said before on this podcast, was a team that I could see even dropping, it could be trading to grab like a veteran defenseman and trading away their top 3 pick at this point. I really believe that could be the case, because they're actually picking number 2, my bad. But regardless, I could see that being the case for them, because they don't necessarily need all this talent right now. They need more veterancy, and they need defense, and they definitely need goaltending. They're pretty close, though. They really are. When you watch them play, they're very fast, extremely talented. When you go then to go ahead, OJ. Were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you're telling me that we could trade Parayko for the 2nd overall pick.
Listen, they might actually do it. I'm not joking. They may do that. Flat out hate that. Because that's what I feel like Anaheim is at right now. I believe that they are looking for proven defensemen. And I mean, listen, I'm not obviously in their office and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what they're going for, but that's, to me, when I look at the roster, that's what they're missing, right? So that's the reason why I don't believe that the NHL would want to give that, because they don't want to give a team that is very close already all of a sudden just be like, okay, cool, now they're going to run the tables for the next like 8 years because they want this to be. Then so okay, cool, let's go down to the next person on the list, which is Columbus Blue Jackets. I can tell you right now that the NHL does not want a franchise in Columbus. They consistently have some of the worst box office numbers. Box office, you know what I mean, ticket selling numbers or whatever. They have some of the worst merchandise records, and it's in Ohio, which is predominantly a football state. Like, it's predominantly football. There's a little bit of basketball that's mixed in, a little bit of baseball that's mixed in, but they are predominantly a football town. Which is ironic because, like, again, they don't have like a really, well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get into that. But regardless, they don't want them there. They kind of, in short terms, have said that they've been looking to try to find a different buyer, different ownership in Columbus. So they're not going to put a franchise that they already want to move. They're not going to give them the number 1 overall pick. So all of a sudden, all these people come in and watch them because they want the excuse to be able to move them. It feels very familiar with the St. Louis Rams. It's super funny. Everybody always says, oh, well, the Rams are, damn, they go to LA and now all of a sudden they have all this money and, they're a pretty good team. Like, you got to ask backwards. Kroenke purposely didn't spend money on the team because he wanted them to be so bad that people wouldn't show up and then they would move to LA. So then he can put all of his money in his team. And that's exactly what he did. And he ended up going to 2 Super Bowls and winning a ring. You know what I mean? Which is just ridiculous. They want to move out, and there's been a lot of talks in forums and stuff like that NHL believes, or that the NHL will be looking to move the Blue Jackets out of Columbus in the next couple of years and move them to Hartford to bring back the Whalers. Again, that's all hearsay. We don't know, but I believe that they didn't want that. So now we get to, the third pick, which was Chicago. And this is perfect for them. Chicago is original 16, and let's be honest, the NHL loves to stroke the undercarriage of the original 6 teams, right? Loves it. They just lost Patrick Kane because Patrick Kane got traded. They're losing Jonathan Toews because they're not bringing Jonathan Toews back anymore. So you're losing one of your most profitable franchises that has been a stable for you when it comes to money for the NHL for a very long, long time. And Chicago's a big market too. So it's just perfect. We're going to go ahead and give you now a franchise player right after you losing 2 franchise players. Last time they picked first overall, they picked Patrick fucking Kane, right? Well, we know what happened after that. And that's exactly what this feels like. And it's super funny when you look at the Hawk fans that are out there they're just like, oh, y'all are just butthurt, blah, 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 blah. If you don't like it, get better, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, if you don't it just shows you don't even understand the rules of the draft. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, but I got to jump in here for a second. Why, just simply put, why the hell did they even why did they even have a pick to begin with? The Yotes literally had to give up their first pick in the freaking draft in 2021 for the combine testing policy. The Blackhawks literally covered up an entire sexual assault.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and they get rewarded for it. They get Connor Bedard after all of this.
And they
didn't have to do shit. It's just, oh man, it's so frustrating.
If you look at the top 5 trending things on Twitter, top 5 since the draft, it is draft, it is rigged, it is Blackhawks, it is Connor Bedard, and then number 5, Kyle Beach, which was the player.
Kyle Beach, there you go. Yep.
Was part of that cover up.
I was going to say, so apparently Kyle Beach, I guess, doesn't matter. Yeah. So.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. But again, but it's the same thing.
He was part of the cover up. He was the one who the action against him was covered up. Just to be clear.
It's just ridiculous because they did the exact same damn thing with Patrick Kane, who raped a woman And, oh, well, you know what? We're going to allow him to play. You know, it's like, what? There's allegations out there. They're going to court. Yeah, we're just going to allow him to play until, you know, they figure out what's going on. Okay, but then Evander Kane makes a mistake by like the domestic violence. And obviously, I'm not trying to say that one of these is better than the other because they're both just unexcusable. Raping some woman and having domestic violence, they're both in the non-redeemable page, right? But I'm just saying it's kind of interesting that, you know, Evander Kane has a domestic issue. And so you're going to suspend him for 4 days without even really knowing anything what happened, or for 4 games, as I should say, which also was really low. But, you know, whatever. I'm not here, there, the judge on that. But then Patrick Kane has this and nothing. Okay, cool. Oh, by the way, he
honest to God, if I was, honestly, if I was Connor Bedard, I would flat out tell him I would refuse to play for him for real if they drafted me for real, because what a terrible situation they put him in, you know, because now that people are going to lash out at him for all of this. I feel bad for the dude at the end of the day, you know, like right now, obviously, you know, I'm going to have to hate on him once he's a Blackhawk, but it sucks for him because he's a 17-year-old kid and now he's smack dab in the middle of all this controversy, and he's going to get rough, you know?
Yeah.
You're going to suck for a kid. You know what I mean? He's a fucking kid. So he's 17. And he's about to get drafted by a team that is known to, you know, house basically and promote sexual, you know, predators. So yeah. Pretty scary. Pretty messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, man. And yeah, I don't even know what to even feel about this, you know, other than the fact that I feel that this is just completely rigged. And I mean, in the NHL, there's so much stuff, you know. Oh, by the way, number 6 trending on Twitter is Gary Bettman. Just saying.
Well, there you go. I was going to say every time anybody, I was going to say he already has no reputation anyway. Just wait till he comes out to, you know, to hand out the Stanley Cup next, you know, after this season. Oh my God! Unless it's in Chicago, dude, they're gonna just rip his head off at that point. Anyway.
Gary definitely strikes me as a justify the means kind of dude.
He's a piece of shit.
Yep, you ain't lying there, man. So, you know, it literally is what it is at this point. But I don't know. It's just it does feel. I don't know. You know what? Before I even continue my stuff here, because I'm just so frustrated and so emotional about it. OJ, what's your thoughts here? Do you believe this is rigged?
Well, of course, yeah. That was the first thing I thought when I saw it. I'm like,
no. I know.
I almost thought they wouldn't do it just because they thought, you know, I thought maybe
it's too obvious, that was right?
Too obvious.
It's so damn obvious. Like really?
Yeah, but no, as soon as the Blackhawks start to look really bad, you know their attendance is going to go in the tank. Now we need to make sure we put more star power in there, and that definitely seems like the kind of shit Gary Bettman would facilitate. So, is what it is.
Yeah, and my thing about this too, it's just like, it's your point. It was pretty obvious. Like it just felt like, okay, this is what's going to end up happening, right? And if you guys remember too, I called it like
I remember.
third into the season. I said the Chicago Blackhawks are going to end up winning Connor Bedard. Right when it came out that Connor Bedard is supposed to be the best prospect since Connor McDavid. I had a feeling because at the time the Blackhawks were, you know, the worst team in the league. I said, yep, Chicago's going to get him. I knew it. And I said it like 3 other times that, you know, well, they're going to end up getting it. I just have a feeling that's what's going to end up having to happen. That's exactly what ended up happening. So super funny how things work out that way.
Yeah. I'm not laughing.
You know, and the stupid thing about this, man, like you can almost just laugh at it because like it's just so unbelievable and it's like so stupid and frustrating. But at the same time, like, you know, it is what it is. Like, it's not going to change us, like, or even NHL executives saying some shit and saying, you know, this stuff is rigged or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It ain't going to change the fact that Chicago has got the number 1 pick and they're going to pick Connor Bedard. Like,
of course. I mean, until the owners, you know, actually step up and they're, you know, start demanding action, you know, Bettman's going to be around for a long ass time, unfortunately. So.
I mean, if you have a bunch of like billionaires horse trading wins in your sports league, then nothing's gonna stop that.
exactly.
Yeah.
For the big full
So
team.
there you go.
Well, let's actually talk about the playoffs here for the NHL because obviously that's still going on. We're in the second round at this point in time. Let's just go ahead and kind of go through it real quick. So first series we had New Jersey Devils versus Carolina in the Canes. Hurricanes lead that series 3-1. They're actually playing right now, and I think that game actually might be very close to over. It is over.
It is over. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking at the
Yeah,
bracket.
so
They
my
have
New
moved
Jersey
on.
Devils lost. Yeah. Well,
That's okay
it's
though.
okay. Like
It's
I
the
like
Canes.
the game. So
Yeah. It's okay.
yeah. So the Carolina Hurricanes are in the Eastern Conference Finals, which they will face most likely Florida Panthers because they've come out of freaking nowhere. They are leading their series 3-1. They almost had to sweep against Toronto, but Toronto was able to starve it off. So Seattle and Dallas, they played tonight. That series is tied up 2-2, so game 5 is tonight. And then they have the fourth series is Edmonton versus the Vegas Knights, which is also tied up 2-2. So let me ask you guys this question before we move on here to our NBA Straw Hat update. Let's start with you, Adam. Which out of these teams, or out of the 8 teams, which team do you think is going to be hoisting the cup at the end of the year?
That's going to be the Canes.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
look at how they
like,
played throughout this entire in the playoffs. They've just been consistent the whole time. You know what I mean? They have just gone. I mean, they have a phenomenal team. They've had a phenomenal team for really a while. I think this is their year. I really do.
Yeah, OJ.
Unless the Florida somehow sneaks it, we'll see. But the part of it, the reason why they're doing so well against Toronto is because Toronto, they're going to be cursed. So, yeah.
Yeah, that
anyway,
is true.
go ahead. Anyway,
no,
go ahead.
OJ. So, what team do you feel has the best chance of winning the cup at this point?
Yeah, I could see this being a Blues kind of season for the Hurricanes. You get a veteran team that finally puts it together and wins before the league decides to start, reffing them super tight so that they can't actually play with any kind of physicality because the league gave them their win. And so it's all over now. It's time for another team to win. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Like, listen, so I'm definitely on Carolina's bandwagon at this point in time. That's definitely the team that out of these, now that the Devils are out, the 7 remaining teams, that is definitely the team that I want to win. But since you guys both went to the East, I'm gonna go out to the West. It's weird, man. I have a really weird feeling about Edmonton. I don't know if they'll actually win it, but since I'm trying to go different, I definitely think that they might actually get to the Stanley Cup.
They might get to the playoffs or to the final, but I don't think they're going to win it.
Yeah. So I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, they got Vegas, and Vegas has been a real tough out for them so far. Obviously, It's tied after 4 games, so we'll have to see.
Well, yeah, and obviously they pretty much wiped out the Jets. So I think the Jets only won like 1 game. So yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So they wrecked them, but yeah.
Oh well.
It is what it is.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, in the conference finals, it'll definitely be, it'll be some. I think it'll be, Carolina, versus obviously Florida Panthers. More than likely, it'll probably be Edmonton, probably versus the Stars. That's what I'm thinking in the conference finals.
It's going to be interesting, but yeah, that's kind of what I feel too. Maybe Seattle can get there. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be completely against it. I would rather Seattle win over the Stars all day. So.
Well, fuck yeah, because we have a better pick than for the
right. Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. So plus I would love to see.
So many guys on that team. Well, at least a couple guys on that team.
Yeah, we do have a couple guys on the team. So, and it would be cool for them, since they're a new team anyway. So, at least make a run for it. So good for them. Better than
now that we've won a cup, I'm okay with them winning one.
Yeah, I'm okay with Seattle a little bit more.
Against Washington the year before.
I'll be honest with you. I was never hating on Seattle like from the very beginning. I don't know. I just never hated on them really. Honestly, I don't know. It's just that's a team that I'm okay with. I'm cool with them. They're all right.
But yeah, as long as I think it's short team, I can't.
Yeah, I'm cool with them. So. Yeah. And I like their logo too. So.
All right, guys. Well, let's get over here to the NBA Straw Hat and update everybody. So, for anybody that hasn't listened in the past couple of sessions, so what we did was, since I'm kind of the only one that watches NBA on a more regular basis,
I have been watching the Lakers and Warriors games. Though.
I know, yeah.
Because I have some skin in that game, and obviously we got a little competition going on between us.
Yeah. So what we did was we put all the teams that were in the playoffs at that point in time. There was 2 teams that had been eliminated from the play-in tournament. We put all the teams into a hat, so we all had 6 teams going forward. So this is where it sits at right now. After the dust is settled, Adam and myself are in the lead with 3 remaining teams, and OJ has 2 teams. Now, here's the thing about this. OJ is guaranteed to get into the Eastern Conference Finals because, unfortunately, his last 2 teams are playing each other.
So he's going to lose one, but at least he'll get one.
So he's going to lose one. So the way that it sits right now, so the Warriors are down 3-2 in the series because they won Game 5 last night. Game 6 is tomorrow in LA. That is my Warriors, of my pick and my actual team against Adam's Lakers, which is not his team, but the team that was chosen. But it is
the team that I was chosen. So I have to, somehow, stomach enough that I want to cheer on the Lakers in a roundabout way, which sucks, but it is what it is. So, oh well.
So in the second matchup, which is also in the West, we have the Phoenix Suns versus the Denver Nuggets. Denver is leading that series 3-2. Adam has the Suns. I have the Nuggets. So it's been funny that we're facing each other 3 times.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the way that everything felt, for everything here. That I think the Phoenix Suns, they play tonight. Yes, they do. So Denver could.
They do at 9 o'clock. Well, I think they just started, I guess, actually. And I think
they probably will start in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Denver, I think, is winning that series currently, I think.
Correct. 3-2, yes.
Yeah, so they could potentially wrap it up tonight. Hopefully not, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully they will.
Hopefully they will.
In the East, we've already talked about it. The Celtics and the 76ers, both teams are OJ's teams by the hat draw. That series is now tied 3-3. So Game 7 will be played on Saturday. So that's going to be a very good game. And then the last series, series, that we got to talk about. Last 2 teams out of the East, the Miami Heat versus the New York Knicks. Adam has the Heat. I have the Knicks, and Miami leads 3-2.
Yes, we do.
They were leading 3-1. The Knicks won yesterday, so hopefully they can continue to win.
No, tomorrow. I was going to say tomorrow is going to be a very pivotal day for both of us. So, yeah.
Yeah, especially when we're going to go to Game 7 on both of those, dude.
Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah. So, anyways, that's the update that we have here for the NBA. So,
we're going to Game 7. You and your jokes.
Oh no, I'm not joking. Hey, listen. If the Knicks lose out, that's fine. But my Warriors, I'm telling you right now, we're playing a chase again, and that's Game 7, son. I've already called it. He's gonna get the game.
As your friend, I'm rooting for this, but as your opponent in this, I have to root against you. So I'm saying Lakers in 6. Secretly, I don't want them to
win. You say that, all right. Anyways, so next week will just be OJ and I on the podcast because Adam's not.
This is bullshit. I'm gonna fucking win this thing, and that'll be it. So that'll be it. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up here. Adam, hit us up with that socials.
Yeah. So, actually, looking at last week, we were asked. Well, I should say 2 weeks ago, technically. We were asking our listeners what their favorite St. Louis sports venue was, and actually we got some responses, and one of our listeners, Mike, shout out to him, thanks for listening and thanks for contributing on the socials here. He mentioned that he really enjoys the new Busch Stadium, so Busch Stadium 3 technically, and he mentioned that he really enjoys that stadium because of the atmosphere, the baseball environment, and because of Ballpark Village, which all are very great points because
that's actually very good. Yeah. Because Adam, you and I mean, the last game of the season last year when we went over saying goodbye to Yachty and to Pujols.
Yeah.
And kind of sort of to Wainwright, although, obviously he stuck around for a year. We were at Ballpark Village, and that was a really good time. That was a really cool time. First time I've ever had was at a game at Ballpark. Yeah, so that was really cool.
and the tickets were dirt cheap because they were like $20 over there, and you got to have in-game audio. You got to watch the game, and whereas the games, like the tickets inside, were like going for like $300 or whatever, and that was like standing room only. It was insane. Whereas Ballpark Village, super cool, had all the nice amenities, and you're up on the rooftop. It was a really cool thing to check out. I mean, I've been over there before, but never for an actual game per se, and I definitely want to do it again. It was a lot of fun, and they actually made some improvements too. I know that they upgraded their jumbotron to like this enormous one, from my understanding, and obviously a lot of watch parties there for the Blues. Happened back in 2019, and it's just a cool place. And then within Busch Stadium, obviously, a lot of really nice spaces. There's not really a bad seat in the park for sure. It's just nice ballpark, very open, like it a lot. Obviously, at first I was kind of brokenhearted that I had to see the old Busch go, but it's just mainly because a lot of the memories for me, growing up with it. But I have to say, the new Busch, to Mike's point, definitely has a really nice atmosphere. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike, again for the contributions and listening. That definitely means a lot to us, and definitely agree. And he brought up some very good points. So that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this week, we're actually sticking with the theme of St. Louis and hometown and whatnot, and how you feel about the hometown, so to speak. We're actually going to be asking about who you root for, so to speak, as our hometown hero, because there's been some really special ones that have come up through the years.
Maroon, David Freese, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Musial and all those other guys. There's been a lot of great names that have lived here and played here, and that was always the dream. So we'd love to hear from our listeners who their favorite player of all time who originally hails from this area is. So we'll be posting that up on Facebook, which is on facebook.com/ the Hometown Losers. That's LOUSERS. Or you can check us out on twitter.com/ hometown losers as well. So be sure and tell us who you think is your favorite from St. Louis that is your hometown hero, and we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds like a good question, and definitely there's a lot of them, because you can even go like Jason Tatum, stuff like that. There's somebody that's never even played for a St. Louis team, but they're from St. Louis. You know what I mean? So that's a very good question. So.
For sure.
OJ, what you got for the game of the week?
Yeah, so any match against Chicago teams, always a big one. So on Saturday at noon, St. Louis City plays the Chicago Fire with a chance to avenge the loss that Chicago just handed us in the Open Cup. So that's my game at noon. Let's watch it.
Let's go.
I think it's in Chicago.
Yeah, it should be in Chicago, I think.
So let's go St. Louis City.
For sure. Their way without Klaus, because he's going to be out again. So.
What actually did end up happening to Klaus? I didn't get to see that in the report.
I haven't seen what the actual injury was either, but I just remember seeing that they were saying like he might miss like a couple matches or something, but now it's obviously more than that. So I think, I don't even know what it was, but hopefully he comes back soon, because
it was apparently a leg injury that happened whenever we were playing Colorado. He was taken out in the 60th minute after he had a leg injury. He went down after apparently feeling the pain in his leg. It was a non-contact situation apparently. And so I guess it was something to do with his quad, I think. I think he may be.
Oh, really? Something to do with his quad?
Ironically, yeah.
Fuck me.
I was going to say, ironically enough, yeah.
Well, I'm just glad it wasn't like an ACL or something, because it was one of those things where he like just sat down because his leg was messed up. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like all of a sudden he couldn't hold his own weight. You know what I mean? So
probably just
let me tell you, a quad. Yeah. So I unfortunately have at least a grade 2 sprain, which is a tear on my quad, on my left quad. That happened from softball. I can tell you it is very uncomfortable. So what ended up happening was, like, I was playing softball. I made a cut. I was actually caught in a hot box or whatever. And so I was making those quick sudden movements back and forth. And I ended up I was safe or whatever, and I'm like, all right, because I was at third, and I'm like, all right, it felt fine, but my leg kind of felt weird. So I go home on a sacrifice fly, so I kind of have to move a little quicker. And my leg, it just didn't. There was something going on, and I thought maybe I just need to stretch it or something, or like something was going on. I ended up finishing the game or whatever, but I definitely was hindered. I couldn't run as fast as I normally did or whatever. Well, I had like a 10-day break. There's no bruising on my leg. I just, did what normal people do, just get on Google and stuff like that. I conferred with my mom, who's a nurse, my stepdad, who's a doctor, and they're like, yeah, you probably have this. And I will admit to, even on air in front of everybody, my stepdad was right. He told me, listen, you're thinking of it in minutes and hours. You need to think of this in hours and days and weeks, because it's going to progressively get worse. Like if you continue to do stuff on it. I'm like, fine, I'll just make sure to stretch out. Like I got it, a week off it and stuff like that. Felt fine this past Sunday. Stretched out. I was able to run, felt perfectly fine. And then like the first or second ball that got hit past me, and I had to quickly moved back to get to the ball, and my leg just popped and it got progressively worse. So yes, unfortunately.
Wait,
I know what those
hold on. When did you play?
This past Sunday.
You said you okay.
Well, the first time that I messed it up was 10 days ago, like this past so it wasn't. Obviously this past Wednesday, because I play softball Wednesdays and Fridays, right?
Oh, so never mind. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So okay, not Wednesday. Okay, I was gonna say, oh my God, dude, you didn't seriously go out there. No, okay, my bad. That was Sunday.
No.
Yeah, I was like, well, holy crap. It's like that's a death sentence right there. Yeah, never. Okay, I got you because it's Sunday.
I didn't play in this leg. I finally took myself out, and unfortunately, my cousin also ended up having a high ankle sprain, but it looked like he might have actually. Well, he did actually have a chip fracture, but we thought he broke his ankle. So we were both in the ER, and that's our outfield for both teams. So we both play, center field. So in softball, if you guys don't know, there's 10 positions, right? So yeah, 4 in the outfield typically. And so he plays left center and I play right center. So our entire team is outfield wise, both teams are having to scramble for that. So it's going to be super fun, but
boy,
it is what it is. Well, anyways, after all that talk about my personal life and softball and stuff like that, let's just go ahead and head to the wrap up here. So appreciate all the listeners. Thank you very much. As we continue our silliness here on our podcast, but we appreciate it. We will see you next time here on the Hometown Losers podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey guys, this is Adam. Just want to say thanks for listening to the Hometown Losers podcast. We'll see you next week as we continue our discussion of St. Louis sports.